Hey yo, salute to all my subscribers. Shout out to everybody else passing through. YouTube, salutations. So, came through today. Have a little discussion about living in the past as it pertains to relationships. Some people say, and it's usually the people who commit transgressions against a partner in their relationships, things like cheating or just doing untrustworthy shit. And when a partner can't get past it as fast as the offending partner would like them to, they say shit like, you're living in the past, you're dwelling on the past, you can't move on unless you let go of the past. So my question is it possible to really get out of the past, to not dwell on the past, to not live in the past? I say, if you really think about it, it's not. I also say, even if you could, it wouldn't be advisable. Everything we do as human beings, based on pattern, based on memory, is based on historical data that subconsciously we're always gathering, assessing, reassessing. It's just the way it is. Even something as simple as you looking at the road ahead of you as you're driving, as I sit in my car about to go to work. Every image that you see, even though it's happening within fractions of milliseconds, takes time for the light reflecting from that image to hit the back of your retina, to be processed by your brain, for you to recognize what it is you're seeing. So essentially, we're constantly looking into the past. Until you put it that way, it's easy to forget just how much everything is related to the past. I don't care not to be too philosophical or too poetic. You look up at the stars at night. The stars that you're seeing, the light from those stars, took tens, hundreds, thousands of years before that light made it to where we could see it. So we're always looking into the past. I don't care how far back it is. Everything we do is based on that. It's based on memory. For people who spend time in the gym, they work out, that's their lifestyle. You hear phrases like muscle memory. Everything that we do to survive, to exist, is based off of past experiences, firsthand, secondhand, doesn't matter. And when you look at it from a standpoint of a relationship, the only thing you really have to go off of when you're dealing with other human beings is a collection of their actions. It's a collection of their words, watching how they carry themselves. You learn those patterns. That's how we interact as human beings. That's how we develop comfort with different people. Because you can never predict what a person's going to do in the future. So how else would we survive intermingled in all the different relationships that we coexist in, whatever the relationship type is, unless we had something to go off of? It's how people acted towards you, treated you prior to this present moment, that one brings you to the decision of whether or not you're going to continue to interact with that person or those group of people, or if you're going to go a different route. And that works for certain types of friends. It even works for family members. But it seems like, at least in my experience, it's always the hardest to sever ties with romantically charged relationships or partner type situations. And I haven't quite yet figured out that conundrum. But even the relationships where people are cheated on, they're lied to, there's shit that's going on that, would not be conducive to that relationship being successful going forward. it's always based off of what that person's past actions were, not just toward you but toward other people. You hear terms like, once a cheater, always a cheater. I take that at face value, but I think there's truth to it in the sense that there's always more, especially from my generation at the age that I am right now. You can always look back and say to yourself that there's more behind you than there is in front of you. That's the case if you're 17, that's the case if you're 47, that's the case if you're 77. And it's not just because of what your age is and you look at it from the span of a linear lifetime. It's true because you can look back at recorded history, whether you're doing research for something that you weren't there to witness, or you're taking inventory of your past life, the life that you've lived up to the present point. You can always look back at that and say, I know more about my past, about the past in general, than I know about what's going to happen next, because it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen from one minute to the next. You might not even be here in 5 minutes. You might not even be here in 5 months, 5 years. So, how we judge people, how we gauge what a person may or may not do, has to be based on what they have done to that point. I think it would be foolish to not recognize a person's patterns. I think it would be foolish to continue on in any type of relationship, whatever your choice is, whatever your experience with that partner is, to continue forward in that relationship and not let there be some weight that bears more on what that person has shown you about themselves to that present point than what you would like to believe they're going to show you going forward. That's just my theory. That's just my thoughts. I don't believe that once someone's a cheater, they're going to be a cheater for the rest of their lives, because you can be in a certain type of relationship and do something to that person. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're in another relationship in the future that you're going to do the same thing. But I do 100% believe, as far as that goes, that once a person cheats on you in a current and present relationship, if you stay in that relationship, there is always a higher chance that that person is going to do that to you again in that present relationship, because it's both ways. It's not just pattern from the other person that you're looking at. It's pattern from that person's perspective as well. Because if I allow you to do something to me and there's no consequences for it, there's really nothing to deflect you or discourage you from doing that to me again, especially if you know that there were no consequences from the previous time and times before that. Even as a parent, it's how we raise our children. You raise your children to know and understand that actions have consequences. And if you're ever really going to be successful at playing the game of life and moving around in different crowds and different circles and different stations, it's all about responsibility, accountability, and it's all about actions, consequences, reactions, and shit like that. But it's all based on historical data. It's all based on the past. There's specific reasons why, financial institutions, whether you're trying to get a car loan, a loan for your home, a credit card, what have you. There's a reason why there's things like credit scores, and they look at your credit history to see how worthy you are of paying off your debt. There's reasons why when you apply to certain types of jobs, they do background checks, not just to label you a criminal or an upstanding citizen, because let's be real, that part of the system's flawed. Having a criminal history just means you got caught doing something. There's for every person that has a criminal history, you could easily find 3 to 5 more people who probably did just as much, if not more, fucked up shit and just didn't get caught. That part's flawed. But the theory is that if you know a person's past behaviors, it better equips you to make decisions on, the risk of having that person tied to you, affiliated with you in any way, shape, or form. There's reasons for this shit, and I think the same thing applies to relationships. And I think it's foolish for people who think that something that's considered to be harmful or considered to be detrimental to your development, emotionally, mentally, whatever. Anything that you deem to be traumatic in how you dealt with that situation or how you experienced that situation is cause for you to never again look at that situation as something that would be impossible to happen or to repeat itself. It's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what y'all think. I don't know what the exact ratio would be, but I 100% believe that anybody who watches this and any of my videos have at some point, whether through first or second hand nature, experienced the situations that I bring to my platforms. And that's the reason why I bring those situations to my platforms, because it's about everyday life. It's about the shit that we go through as normal people moving through this fucked up world. And so having said that, let me know what y'all think. If you are cheated on by someone, you really think it's possible to not be brought back to that moment if that person exhibits some kind of behavior that, even if it's not parallel to what they did to you in that relationship, but even if it's just enough to remind you of that experience, of those actions, is it really possible for you to ever get out the past? I don't believe so. I think that that's built in as an innate defense to us continuing to be hurt. Why we override that in this society and why we allow that to be there to serve as those warning bells, but we ignore and look past them, that part I don't know. That part I haven't figured out yet. But it's there for a reason. It's not a person. You don't consciously choose to dwell on the past. Some people, I think, are just more in tune to patterns of people and shit that's happened to them, and they're just more keen and aware of what a person is capable of doing if they've already shown you they have the propensity to exhibit certain shit, for lack of a better word. It is what it is. Let me know what y'all think. I'm out of here. I'll see y'all in a little bit. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace and love.